Welcome back, you guys. Today we'll be doing this wedding setup, my first wedding ever. But before we do, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Alright, guys, so we'll be setting up today on this sequence wall. This was actually a rental from a local vendor, so it's not mine. I don't know where they got it from. I'm sorry, but it's just a sequence wall on a pipe and drape set. I used the back of the sequence wall since it was a pipe and drape. I used a 260Q and attached it to the pole in the back. And then I started to build, which I'll be building with clusters of 8 balloons. As you see, some of them have the 2 16 inches in them. And then I was also using quads of 4 balloon attaching to blend to the next color, which was either a cluster 8 balloons and another quad of 4 balloons, which was that black. So I connected those two quads, the quad of the white and a quad of the black together to blend to the next color. And then it was a cluster 8 balloons after that. You guys, this was my first wedding. I was a little nervous. I never did a wedding before. I actually did the bridal shower for this wedding. And let's just take a moment because it's different than a client saying, like, oh, I love this setup. It was beautiful. But when the client actually come back and book you again, it's like a special feeling. I'm really grateful, and I have a few repeat clients because it's like reconfirming, like, oh, they really like it. You're not just texting like, oh, I like it. You booking me again. You're spending your hard on earned money again with me. So it's really something that we shouldn't take lightly and really appreciate when they come back again. And I do appreciate my clients, and when they come back, I typically offer like a percentage discount for them to show my appreciation. But for here, you guys, this setup, I was nervous. So many things were just not going right. Number one, I did a little extra, as I always do. I brought some orbs with me, some helium orbs that I inflated. I inflated 6 altogether. Only 3 made it to the venue though. One popped in a car, one popped on site. I just ended up stabbing it with a scissors. I don't know how. And then I lost another one, I think, at home. So I ended up only having 3 altogether, which you'll see at the end how I end up using them. And then the backdrop was late. So I had a 2.5 hour setup, which is great comfort time for me. For me to play around with. And the backdrop was almost an hour late due to traffic and things like that. Things are out of our control sometimes. But that 2.5 hours went from an hour and a half, and at that point I'm just like, I want to just do something simple but cute, something I know will turn out nice and not too crazy with the shape. Again, this is my first wedding, and I want to make sure that they have beautiful memories, and with the setup behind them in the photos. So that was a bummer. So that plus the orbs, and then the sign that I originally attached, this was a sign that they bought, but it was no batteries. So then it was like, I'm sure they got batteries later. I believe I seen some photos, but I didn't have the batteries when I was finished setting up. So then the picture, how the pictures, no neon lights with batteries is, neon lights with no batteries is wild. So it was just, a lot of things going on. But alhamdulillah, I think the setup turned out great. I did like a little half garland over here. I mean, it's a full garland on one side, then like a little half garland on the other side. Something I thought was super cute and simple. Then the helium balloons I end up using with just a little added touch, a little icing on the cake to give the setup some movement, to make it a little bit more extra. But I love that it was just the simple black, white, silver, and I didn't go too heavy on the silver balloons. As you can see, you guys, I because mainly the backdrop was sequence silver, so I wasn't going too heavy on the silver. I went a little bit more heavier on the white and the black, of course. So now I'm building the half garland on the other side. I started off with a cluster of 6 balloons, and then I added that cluster and quad method that I do for the silver and the black, and just playing around with the balloons, adding a little extraness. This one had a cluster, and it was two 16-inch balloons in it with 6 11-inch balloons. And sometimes, when I'm at home and I'm inflating the clusters or quads, sometimes I may, like what I just did, I had a cluster of 6, but I needed a quad. Sometimes I just, untwist them together and end up putting them in other places. Um, Based on me designing on site, I may not need that cluster anymore. I may need a quad. And these are things you can't always, I guess, guesstimate at home, because once you start building and figuring out what kind of design you want, it's kind of hard to, do that based on inflation at home. So I usually just make the amount of clusters or quad that they pay for, since I charge by foot. And then when I get on site, sometimes that cluster that I made may turn into a quad or something like that. But I definitely inflate the amount of clusters that they pay for technically. And then if I need extra, sometimes maybe a cluster or two, then of course I'll inflate on site. But for the most part, I inflate as much as I can at home. And here I am adding the 5-inch balloons. My 5 inches are always pre-inflated at home, and I use my Legenda, which for a double stuff balloon I put it on 0.7, and for single stuff I put it on 0.6. So these are my 5-inch balloons. They usually size to around 3 or 3.5 inches, if I had to guess. Yeah. And this is me just going in, adding all the 5 inches. And later on, I will be putting on, I will be tacking down or making a ray point on the ground for the garland, so it won't be moving. This is right in front of the dance floor, so I definitely didn't want anyone to be tripping over balloons, you know, dancing into them and is moving all over the place. So I did make some H methods on the ground so it will hold the balloons in place. And you can also do the water bottle method or the water balloon method. I be forgetting about those methods half of the time and I just don't have them. But if you keep some in maybe in your bag or something like that, those are easier as well than doing a tape. Here I use the black gaff tape, if I'm not mistaken. And I usually just make an H method with a 260 and then wrap it around at least 2 balloons of the clusters that's on the ground, and they usually hold them in place. So I did that on both sides. And here I'm just adding the quad to finish off that bottom piece, and then the rest I put it around. Now, again, as I mentioned, this was on the dance floor, you guys, so I needed to shiny balloons. You guys know black and chrome matte balloons are not the cutest, but I also needed to be extra careful, and I was nervous about this too, because high shine, you guys know, spills make the floor slippery. So what I did was I put the bags down. These was the bags I brought the balloons in with, and then I sprayed, and I kept the beds there for a few minutes, because last thing I need is somebody doing the electric slide and slide all the way down to the ground. Nope, not on my watch. So I kept the beds there while it dried. As you can see, the brightness, the shine is coming through, until it was probably like 5 minutes or so. And then I was working on the helium balloons in the back, and I just taped them directly to the floor. And then I moved the bags over to the next side, and then I sprayed those down, and I left the bags there again for like 5 or so minutes. So as it's drying, whatever is dropping off and falling off, it will fall onto the bag and not the floor. So I just kept it there a few more minutes as it was finishing up. And here I'm adding the last balloon. And this one, again, I just used like my transparent tape to put them there. I didn't have any weights. That's what I used, transparent tape on the floor. And this is the final outcome, you guys. This is how everything turned out. Still sad about the batteries. We didn't have any, and there was no outlets behind, but they got some later. But if you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comments box, and I'll put everything I use in the description box. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.